story, there has been a dramatic start to Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa's testimony before the Farlam Commission today. Members of an NGO and family members of killed miners disrupted proceedings, shouting blood on his hands. The commission is probing the 2012 Marikana shooting.
Blood on his hands! Blood on his hands! Blood on his hands!
The commission will adjourn.
Blood on his hands! Blood on his hands!
Unprecedented events at the Marikana Commission. Ramaphosa is testifying in his capacity as a then non-executive director of Lonmin. When the shouting continued, Judge Ian Farlam briefly adjourned proceedings and walked out. On his return, he called the disturbance serious misconduct, which would not be tolerated. Judge Farlam said he would give the hecklers one more chance. Earlier, Ramaphosa denied he had influenced then Police Minister Nathi Mthethwa on what steps to take during the mine workers' strike. He admitted that he'd communicated with both the Ministers of Police and Mineral Resources, urging them to act in a more pointed manner. As the situation on the ground had escalated to a criminal element, resulting in the loss of 10 lives by the 15th of August. Ramaphosa said the brutal manner in which striking miners had killed Lonmin security guards left him shocked. He also conceded that if Lonmin had negotiated with the miners, instead of sticking to their hardline stance, the situation would not have escalated to the point at which they did. The inquiry continues.
Joining us now from the Farlam Commission is SABC contributing editor Vuyo Mvoko. Now, Vuyo, as we've just heard, the commission was disrupted. Can you tell us what happened there?
Well, there was, of course, that very brief disruption. Advocate Dalim Pofu was trying to make a point, of course, that he was going to raise a lot later, but sort of trying to sensitize the presiding judge that this was his intention. It was at that point that we suddenly had people from the stands at the public gallery, that is, shouting and saying Cyril Ramaphosa has blood on his hands and calling for his resignation. At that point, as you correctly pointed out, and as viewers would have seen in that clip, people then, Judge Farlam left, but then came back issuing a stern warning to those people, saying he won't tolerate something like that again, and I think making a very valid point. And that point is that this commission is exactly about getting to the bottom of what actually happened, and that chance that chance should not be blown away by protest, and no more time should be wasted, because Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa only has today and tomorrow to give his testimony. So after Judge Farlam's warning, it must also be said, with a bit of intervention there from Advocate Dalim Pofu, things went back to normal. But at that time, of course, on the stand was still Deputy President Ramaphosa, and the person who was cross-examining him is Tembeka Ngcukaitobi from the Legal Resources Center. And what Tembeka Ngcukaitobi was trying to do was, in essence, after the Deputy President Ramaphosa had actually spoke of what he had done, in other words, the calling up the Minister of Minerals and Energy, calling the Minister of Police Service to say to them, you've got to act, this is a dire situation. So what Tembeka Ngcukaitobi was saying was that, or was suggesting was that, Mr. Ramaphosa has actually not been consistent, because though he did those things, those he found fault in what the Ministers of Police and the Minister of Mineral Resources had done, he wasn't consistent where it mattered. In other words, the situation that took place on that day where workers were fired at could have been avoided had Mr. Ramaphosa played his role as a shareholder, but also as someone who had an intense knowledge of how workers typically behave and the resource and the demands they were making at the time.
Thank you, Vuyo.